In 1873, the world slipped into a financial disaster that most people have never heard about, yet it quietly reshaped modern capitalism forever. There were no dramatic explosions, no single villain, and no sudden announcement on the news. Instead, the global economy began to crack slowly, almost silently, until millions of lives were pulled into the collapse. This crisis began during a time of extreme optimism. The industrial world believed technology, railroads, and endless growth would solve everything. Investors poured money into railways, factories, and banks with the confidence that progress itself guaranteed profits. Railroads were the internet startups of the 19th century. They promised speed, connection, and wealth beyond imagination. Governments supported them, banks financed them, and ordinary people invested their savings, convinced railroads could never fail. But beneath the excitement, the system was fragile. Railroads were being built faster than demand could support. Companies borrowed heavily, banks extended risky loans, and speculation replaced real economic value. Growth looked impressive, but much of it was built on debt. In Europe, trouble appeared first. In May of 1873, the Vienna Stock Exchange suddenly collapsed after years of reckless speculation. Investors panicked, credit froze, and banks stopped trusting one another almost overnight. The shockwaves traveled quickly across borders. European banks pulled investments from abroad to survive at home. American markets, deeply connected to European capital, began to feel the pressure within months. In September 1873, the crisis exploded in the United States. One of the country's largest financial institutions, J. Cook and Company, collapsed after heavy railroad investments went bad. The failure sent shockwaves through Wall Street. Banks shut their doors. The New York Stock Exchange closed for 10 days. Businesses that relied on credit suddenly found themselves unable to operate, and fear spread faster than facts. What followed was not a short recession, but a long and grinding depression. Thousands of businesses failed. Railroads went bankrupt. Factories shut down, and unemployment soared to levels never seen before. For ordinary workers, the consequences were brutal. Jobs disappeared without warning. Wages collapsed for those still employed. Families lost homes, savings, and any sense of security they once believed modern industry provided. There was no safety net, no unemployment benefits, no government rescue programs. If you lost your job, survival depended entirely on family, charity, or luck. The Depression didn't stay in the United States. Germany, Britain, France, and other industrial nations experienced years of slow growth, deflation, and social unrest. This was the first economic crisis to truly spread across the global financial system. Prices kept falling year after year. While that might sound good, deflation crushed businesses and workers alike. Companies earned less money, wages dropped, and debts became harder to repay. Farmers suffered deeply during this period. As prices for crops fell, many farmers found themselves trapped in debt. This would later fuel political movements demanding monetary reform and government intervention. The Panic of 1873 also transformed capitalism itself. Businesses realized survival required size and efficiency. Small firms vanished, while large corporations consolidated power through mergers and monopolies. This era saw the rise of powerful industrial giants. Steel, oil, railroads, and finance increasingly fell under the control of a few dominant players who could survive long downturns better than anyone else. governments initially believed the market would fix itself. Intervention was minimal, and relief efforts were weak or non-existent. The idea that governments should manage economic crises had not yet taken hold. But the lessons were painful and unforgettable. Economists, politicians, and business leaders slowly began to understand that unchecked speculation and unlimited credit could destabilize entire societies. The Depression finally eased in the late 1870s, but its impact lasted far longer. Labor movements grew stronger, demands for regulation increased, and trust in endless growth was permanently shaken. The Panic of 1873 faded from popular memory, overshadowed by later crashes, yet it set the blueprint for every financial crisis that followed. It showed how global markets could fail together and how ordinary people always pay the highest price. Long before the Great Depression of the 1930s, the world had already experienced its first global economic collapse, and its quiet lessons still echo through every boom, bubble, and crash we see today.